Hey, how are you?
I'm good, Jess. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. It looks like so far people are still joining, so I think we got it all worked out. I'm Jesse Manning. I'm from Business Lunch Productions, and this is a show that we do every single week live, Mondays and Thursdays on the New York Pro Scouts channel. We record the episodes and we release them afterwards. And our guest today is in need of a huge thank you, Coach Ed Blankmeyer. We had some technical issues last week, and people were unfortunately unable to join us, but you agreed to do this again, and we really appreciate it. So thank you, Coach. I will introduce you briefly, and then I'll let you introduce yourself. But you're the new manager of the Brooklyn Cyclones. You spent 25 years, I believe, at St. John's as the head baseball coach, Big East Coach of the Year, ABCA Coach Awards, a lot of recognition for all the hard work and dedication over the years. How would you introduce yourself?
Just a baseball coach. Just try to get guys better. Kind of a labor of love. Love the game of baseball. So never worked a day in my life. I think that's the best way to look at it.
That seems to be the common theme among everybody in the game. So before we get started, you know the drill about the title. You named it last time, Staying Safe with Ed, I believe. Do you want to stick with that, or do you want to give the show?
We have to stay safe. It's imperative. Got to be careful with this unprecedented virus that we are experiencing, and hope and pray that everybody stays healthy and stays safe, and let's get back. Hopefully, we can get back this thing to normal life and play some baseball.
That's the hope. And I know they're in discussions about it, so hopefully they'll figure it out sooner rather than later, because even the president now, whether you like him or not, he's still talking about we need baseball back. He's tired of watching 14-year-old games. So,
yeah.
So the last time we spoke, we talked towards the end of the show about how coaching your son was sort of the peak of the mountain in many ways for your career at St. John's. And now you've made your way to the Cyclones. It's a new challenge. Today, I kind of want to start there. So can you talk about what it was like to coach Ty and ultimately seeing him make his way into the professional ranks in scouting?
Yeah, I am, as I said earlier, Jesse, that, I don't think too many dads can say that they were able to see their son every day while going to work. And I was blessed to have Ty play for me for 4 years. And, every day I went to the ballpark, my son was there, working out, training, and competing for me. So that was it was wonderful. And our relationship, he's my best friend, and we talk baseball all the time. It's a fabric of our life. To have him get the opportunity, and anybody gets a chance to play professional baseball, it's obviously a dream come true. Obviously, the dream was short-lived, but he had that opportunity. The Reds organization was nice enough to hire him as a coaching intern, and gave him valuable experience in that area. And he had an opportunity to coach with guys like Barry Larkin, Juan Nieves, and several other guys, Lenny Harris, and he's developed some very, very good relationships. And, I was lucky enough to spend a week out there or so with him and watch him go through that, the AZL experience, and watch him do his early work, and got a chance to speak with some of the coaches there and how he was developing. And they were going to send him to advanced work in the organization with the Reds, and then on to instructional ball. But an opportunity with the Brewers came up, and it was a full-time job versus an internship position. And I always felt as a coach, to evaluate players is one of the most important things. And I know this is a scouts channel, if you will. The scouts are the lifeline of any organization, because you have to identify those talented players to allow the people in development to get their hands on them and and polish the stone, so to speak, to develop him. So I felt in Ty's career, the best channel and the best way to go would be to do some scouting for a couple of years before he entertained the coaching profession. So he's been with the Brewer organization for the past. This will be his third draft, and I think he's gained valuable lessons to a lot of guys that are on this show right now. You know, talking about Billy Blitzer and guys like that. Boy, I tell you, you know, you can't the wealth of knowledge, the amount of gains that these guys have seen. I recommend to, unbelievable, but there's a lot of young guys in the profession now, and they can, you know, some of those guys can tell you. But these crafty old veterans that seen a lot of guys, they're worth their weight in gold versus the young guys that, to me, that rely on the analytic data, that rely on video. These keen-eyed scouts, boy, I tell you, hopefully I'm considered one of those guys in those groups, because I'm proud of that. That particular scout, you know, I tell Ty all the time, anytime you go with some of these guys, you pick their brains because they've seen it, they've done it, and you better well learn from it, respect it.
Can you think of something that you learned from coaching him when he played for you that you've taken with you, and now that he's started working, what are your conversations like?
You know, anytime I was with Ty, it was kind of the conversation went in one of two directions. I'm going to be a dad, or I'm going to be a coach, and there has to be a separation there. You know, he's my son. He always will be my son. But when I had an opportunity to coach him, you know, he had to understand the rules, and he did. He understood the rules. So, and you know, one thing possibly I might have been too hard on him, because I expected that much more of him than the other guy, because he knows what I expect, how to go about his business, how to respect the game. But when we trained, when we worked out together, you know, there were some heated moments, to say the least. It always came down to the discussion at the end. Do you want me to be a dad, or do you want me to be a coach? And that's how we approached our relationship, and I thought it was the right direction. So I felt all the players that I coached were my kids, but you know, sometimes I'm coaching them.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing. I treat them like my kids, but I coached them the way I want them to be coached, so they become better ball players. And more than likely, you know, part of this whole coaching profession, and whether it's high school, whether it's little league, whether it's college, even professional baseball, you know, you're trying to make the player the best player they can be, from a standpoint of moving up the level of play, winning baseball games, winning championships. But you also teach them the game of baseball and the game of life with the game of baseball, trying to make them better men. Let's be honest, not all these guys are going to play professional baseball. How many guys are going to play in the major leagues, and how many guys are truly going to make a living in the major leagues? But if we can make them better people, I think we've done a good job.
100%. So sort of on that topic, I want to take it now back in your career. You were a local product from Seton Hall. You're a great player on a great team there. You were also an academic All-American before you got drafted by the Orioles. And so we have a lot of players that messaged in, tried to tune in last time, and that are probably watching now. So from your experience, what is the importance of the academics in everything you did, and why did you put in the effort to excel in the classroom also?
I guess my message to those are, you know, everything you do, you want to do the best you possibly can. And you use the word student athlete. We take that for granted nowadays. You're going to school to play baseball. You're not playing baseball to go to school. Although some kids do it that way. I felt that the true essence of a student athlete is a person that goes to schools, values his education, prepares for what he or she wants to do, and benefits by playing the game of baseball. I was lucky enough to get an opportunity to play professional baseball. I've always wanted to do that, but I realized the reality of the situation is getting an opportunity is one thing, and playing in the big leagues is a whole different thing. So it prepares you for life, approaching it as a student athlete going to college.
We were talking about how much you love books the last time too. So on that topic, what's the name of that book you're reading right now, and how are you enjoying it?
Oops, sorry.
It's okay.
I have it someplace.
And if you have questions for Coach Blankmeyer, you can just type them in. I see Ross Merritt's joined, Chuck Schnabel, BioPitch. Hi, everybody.
I do a lot of reading. I'm trying to get into the way this game is going. I'm right now in dynamics of skill acquisition, because I think in the game of baseball, we're not teaching baseball as much now as movement skills. So you better understand the movement skill application to the game of baseball, whether it's pitching, hitting, fielding. So I'm into that. I'm reading a lot of Ryan Holiday books right now. The Obstacle is the Way was the most recent one I've read. But I'll probably be getting
finished that in the last week.
yeah. I have to get
you're buzzing through them.
I have to go and get into a couple more of them. I think reading and coaching is learning, and my interest has always been to find out how other people do things and how other people do things well, and try to bring some of that information into my coaching and my teaching. And when you talk about coaching, it's not coaching, it's teaching. Coaching is part of teaching. Teaching is teachers are, after it's all said and done here, to me, I think it's the most important profession. You're preparing these young men and women to go out.
Someone said they should be making $1 billion each after all this, having to deal with their kids at home now.
You better be, parents appreciate the teacher much more now than they ever have.
A lot more now, yeah.
So maybe there'll be a spike in the teaching profession, and there's maybe a spike in the salaries nowadays. But the information that's out there, whether it's on the internet, whether on YouTube channels, there's just such a volume of information that can make you better, period, in anything you want to do. So young people that are listening here, my love is to read. I like to have something in my hands, not just the Kindle, okay, but I like to put my hands on a book and sit down and write in the margins, and I keep them, and I keep journals on them, and I go back to reflect, to look at it, and it's like anything else in the coaching and teaching profession. There's so much information out there, and there's, in particular, say for example, a baseball coach, there are a couple of good drills that you've done, and all of a sudden you got away from those drills to move on to stay advanced into the newer drills, if you will. But I always like to go back to say that there's some good things that I might have forgot about that I should be incorporating or keeping with me. So you're always constantly trying to learn.
Gary says that his son GJ is sitting there and would like to know, with no baseball, for an incoming high school freshman, how should they be preparing? Well,
first of all, I would just keep training and keep working and doing whatever you possibly can right now. I'm blessed. You know what I do every day? Ty and I go outside. We throw for 20 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm playing catch. But, if you have access, we're restricted right now. But there are a lot of things you can do as a player. You can throw the baseball up against the wall. Heck, you have to be creative. It's putting the responsibility on the young person to be creative, to do things actively in this game of baseball. You can you can work on your skills of fielding against the wall. If you have the access, somebody to dad or mom to roll the ball to you, you can instruct them to do things. You can always keep your arm hot by throwing, just by having a bucket of balls and throwing them. If there's a will, there's a way. You can find a way. Now, it's not as intense as, practicing with a team or being on the field or being in a competitive environment, but you have to find things to do to continue to improve your skills.
And we got more questions. Could you see yourself back in college baseball at some point? You haven't even started pro ball yet. How do you know?
You know, you never know where it is. And, you know, I love my experience. Is that Joe Burke, my boy
Yep.
Joe?
Yes, it is.
One of the finest players I've ever had. And what a wonderful person and what a successful person. And to me, guys like Joe Burke are the guys that, you know, everybody went. Joe played pro ball for the Yankees. He played independently in Somerset, but an extremely successful person in his life right now, with a new child as well. So now he's being a dad. But you never say never. I've always wanted and was intrigued by professional baseball because it's strictly baseball. When I accepted the position and development, you know, where is this going to go? I don't know. But I will have to say I love the college game. It's in a great place. And my experience at St. John's has been second to none. I can't tell you how honored I was to coach at St. John's. How honored I was to coach the players I had, to be involved with the coaches that I were around from a daily basis, my staff, and some of the coaches that have gone on to bigger and better things that I've had the pleasure to coach with. But the people at St. John's are just fabulous. They were just great people. I never wanted to leave, but my heart took me in this direction. It's like anything else. You just want another challenge in your life. And I felt this was the right time to do it. And with the right organization, I believe in the organization. I believe in Brody Van Wagen and his vision. Alan Baird, Omar Minaya, Jared Banner, I think are great leaders. So I wanted to be a part of this. And I believe there are great things that are certainly going to be coming with the Mets.
We think so too. So we're going to talk quickly. You were drafted by Baltimore. You got to play for a year for Art Mazmanian, who we talked about, in Pulaski. And then you went back to be an assistant coach at Seton Hall at the time. And I'm guessing you probably coached some people you had played with. I mean, over the years, you coached Movan, Craig Bizio, but at the time when you went back, it was like a year or two after you left.
No,
right?
After I left professional baseball, I went out to the West Coast.
Okay.
And taught physical education out there, and was a football coach and a baseball coach. And I'll tell you a story about my football experience. I coached at a school called the Harvard School, and I scouted a game and watched John Elway play against John Ramsey. And I saw, it was Granada Hills against John F. Kennedy High School. And in that day, West Coast football was well more advanced. And I think I saw about a total of like 8 running plays. They were just throwing the football. Now, that's when John Elway was a senior. And he obviously went on to Stanford, and Ramsey went on UCLA. But I had an opportunity to coach in the South Bay Conference. Redondo Beach is where the Brett brothers came from. I'm going back some of my old-time scout buddies will know the guys I'm talking about. My first year of coaching, I think our team record. Now, this was a private school playing against public in the South Bay, and we had 9 guys drafted out of our league.
Oh my God!
And most of either the guys, that they weren't signed, they either went to Arizona State or USC at that time, where they were very, very good. We weren't too good. But now the Harvard School has become very, very good. And you guys, the 2 guys that are pitching in the big leagues, that are high-level guys, are Jack Flaherty and Lucas Giolito from that school.
Not too shabby, right?
Not too shabby. But this school, prior to that, the Harvard School, was a very exclusive school, privately oriented, that were really academic. Now this thing has evolved into a very good baseball school, and the guy's doing a great job out there. So the experience was good. Then I went back after my 3rd year. Seton Hall came out and played in the Riverside tournament on the West Coast, and became a graduate assistant. So I was kind of lured back, if you will, to coach college baseball as a graduate assistant while I can get my graduate degree. So I figured, California was cool for 3 years. So I want to get back to the East Coast. So I took that. And that's when I really began my college coaching career.
Was there a logical progression for you from playing into coaching, or was it tough? Were you nervous at first to get into that side of things?
You know, I wasn't nervous. My professional experience was good. I had an opportunity to re-sign after I was released, and I chose not to. I just felt, it just wasn't there. I just lost the fire, if you will. But what I did like, and back in those days, you'd had a manager. That's all you had in pro ball. I don't even recall a pitching coach. I remember Ray Rabbit Miller was our pitching rover, and Chico Hernandez was an infield rover in the Baltimore organization. So it was like we were helping each other out. Now, I was doing flips with guys, and doing some tee work with some guys, and I said, I just like coaching it. So I got a little taste while I was in professional baseball. And then obviously my background was in teaching. So as I began teaching, I said, well, gee, if I could just coach baseball, that would be pretty good. And
you did it.
Yeah, so the GA position became available. I did it. And then, of course, I became on Mike Shepard's staff as an assistant. But typical Catholic schools nowadays, Catholic schools, they try to get you to do 15 jobs. So I was an assistant director of admissions and baseball coach, so I was doing that. And
you're
then
doing everything.
So I said, gee, I was coaching now, but the job at St. John's opened up, and and I just started coaching baseball, and I like that a lot versus working in admissions.
So Coach Rob, I can't really see it. I think it says Rob CTK20 says, do you have a good hitting drill for kids who have limited space and a net at home right now?
Good hitting drill, limited space and a net. Nothing like doing any type of soft toss or tee work to work on your swing. If you can grab yourself a tee, heck, you can go out and, I don't want to use the word steal, but you can get one of those cones and change the height by creatively moving things around. You can work on different levels or different areas within your swing as best you possibly can. And if you have the courage, if you have the space, and you can do some sort of you can do some side toss with that person. So any type of tee work, even like I said, a tee work, or you can put a sock on a tee and hit it, roll up a sock and put a little tape on it and create a ball so you don't damage anything. So
and I always think we're spoiled up here because you think about the kids in the Dominican and you see they're playing with rock. They'll play with whatever they can get their hands on. So you just got to make it work.
You're trying to develop some sort of eye-hand coordination and some barrel awareness. So I think, and this is tough times. I understand it, but it makes our young players are so reliant on what the coaches tell them what to do. Sometimes you have to take some ownership, and eventually, as you play professionally, it's on you. It's ownership on your ability and what you have to prepare yourself on a day in and day out basis. I think this event that's occurred here with this coronavirus, is testing our youth's creativity. So
100%.
So yeah. I challenge them, and anybody that's listening, parents, let them be a little creative. Don't you can support them, but let's see how creative they are to allow themselves to get better.
I saw Christy Ackert's here. Ty just joined and said Rutgers should be taking notes.
Rutgers, oh geez.
So who are some of your biggest, you touched upon that you've had a lot of mentors, but who are some of your biggest mentors over the years?
My high school coach, I don't know, some of my scout buddies remember this man's name, is John Ayers. John Ayers was my high school coach, and Carmen Girolamo, two of my high school coaches, were very influential in my career as a teacher. John Ayers in particular, got me really into learning the game, his organizational skills, more of a football mentality. That's the way I went about my coaching of baseball. Organization, drills, having a plan of attack, going out to work all the time. So those two gentlemen really influenced my life initially. And then Mike Shepard was my college coach, and brought me back to Seton Hall. Tough Marine, tough guy, and some of the guys on this feed knows who I'm talking about. But he allowed me to grow as a coach. He gave me the freedom to learn, to explore, to fail, but go out and recruit, bring in players. Just allowed me to do a lot of things. And that really prepared me for becoming a head coach. A lot of guys want to go right into becoming a head coach. I was a coach for 15 years as an assistant, and it really, really prepared me to become a head coach. And then as and becoming a head coach and going through this whole coaching profession, I would just like to mention some of the local people that really influenced me. Guys by the name of Ed Mathis, who has been a scout, and guys can talk about. And I loved Eddie Mathis to death, and God rest his soul. Howie Gershberg. I can't tell you how Howie Gershberg had an influence in my life and what he did in regards to developing pitchers, certainly at St. John's, but even in the Angels system. He left St. John's to coach with the Angels. Al Goldis, guys like Billy Blitz, the scouts. There's so many guys that influenced me. To me, one of the greatest scouts of all is Ralph DeLulo. And Ralph was so kind. Pat Short, another guy that, I have a very good relationship but there's a lot of great scouts out there that you learn from. And, there was always a great exchange with these guys. They were willing to share. I think that's what's great about the game of baseball. They wouldn't hold back. They tell you the truth. They give you the feedback. You might not like and disagree with them, but, there's always a sharing in our profession. And I can't say enough about the coaches and scouts in our area that is just wonderful. Gary Perone and I don't want to bring up Gary's name too much. He'll get a big head. But, we want to put something together to really unite the New York area, because there's such a wealth of great coaches. If we can unify in this great city, and really, I think we can take this game of baseball to a whole different level. And I think Gary would agree. I think a lot of our guys would agree. Sometimes we're just on different islands.
Totally.
Different islands for different reasons. I understand it. In some cases, it's a person's livelihood. But to grow this great game in the greatest city in the world, it would be a great platform. So maybe we can get to that. That's what I think. That's the direction
we're working towards.
That's what I'm with you 100%. And I just think people have to get in line. We're not going to steal anybody's thunder or steal their business. But there are a lot of talented people in New York City, kids in New York City that to me should be playing baseball. And we got to get them doing it, because there's just too much talent, untapped talent that can go someplace and maybe play for the Mets one day.
We got a great question here from Christy Ackert. So the stop and start of pitchers because of the coronavirus is being compared to how college pitchers prepare. So is there anything from the college experience that will help you prepare pitchers when they come to spring training?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, professional baseball, typically it's one season. You get yourself prepared, you ramp up, you do your season, and you shut down. College baseball is 2 seasons. It's the fall season, okay, where you would play in a 6-week period of time. You'd shut down, then you ramp up again. So there is some start and stop. But in both cases, that I think that we're having a problem with, and where there's a lot of arm injuries, is you're not giving the players enough time to rest. And that's a concern of mine. Resting, and then, if you're 4 weeks away from not playing, and you shut down for 4 weeks, then you need about 4 weeks to get your arm ready again.
Yeah.
I think that it relates. And one of my concerns would be in starting professional baseball is, will there be a spike of arm injuries? We see a lot of arm injuries now, and I'm not blaming it on anybody, except I think the young kids are throwing too much too early in their careers, and it obviously ends up transpiring to getting hurt later in their careers. I'd like to see us go back. I'm getting off tangent here. Go back to a point where the kids are playing 3 sports and not throwing the baseball as much, and letting them physically grow, because every time you throw a bullet, that arm is being
There's only a
tested.
certain amount of mileage you get.
And there's a lot of mileage, and I'm not saying there weren't arm injuries back when I played. Maybe we didn't know about it. We used to call it dead arms, and we used to fight through it, but there just seemed more and more guys blowing it out, not just the elbow, but the shoulder. And the rehab process is crazy. But I think the professionals can learn from starting and stopping, and from college baseball, and we've done that. And I know our organization is very conscious of volume and ramping guys up and slowing guys down. And even in the process right now, we don't know when we're going to start.
Yeah.
So you don't want the guys to start throttling up real fast. You want to, right now, I guess the best way to do it is maybe we're in a situation where we're keeping our arm moving. But these guys aren't going all out throwing pens yet. You just can't.
So, sort of on topic here, we talked about how you made the move from your storied career because you were ready for a new challenge. So you're probably, like the rest of us, chomping at the bit to you got a month down in Florida. You're probably chomping at the bit to get back to that big league experience for the first time in a lot of years. So what is the first thing you want to say or do the next time you get a ball field with a group of players, whether that's Port St. Lucie, Brooklyn, somewhere else? But what do you want to say? What do you want to do?
First of all, the best thing is getting in there and getting in the locker room and putting a uniform on. To me, with the Mets on, out in front will be great. And just getting a chance to interact with the coaches again and the players. And there's nothing like it, getting on the ball field together and talking in the locker room and working with the guys. It's just, I can't tell you how enjoyable that is. And with the staff that Jared Banner's put together, I mean, there's just a good bunch of guys. And just my experience down there for the past right around a month. I mean, there's what quality kids they brought in. It's just a pleasure to be around them. The way they work, the way they go about their business. It's it was inspiring. I'm looking forward just to walk on the field and watch the guys start to stretch again. I just can't wait for that to happen. I hope sooner versus later.
We got 2 questions. One's from your son Ty, and the other one is from Matt Hunter. So Matt says, "What's the funniest thing Mo Vaughn ever said to you?" And Ty says, "Tell us about the Craig Biggio recruitment story."
Funniest thing that Mo was a little bit of a character, and you had to keep Mo in line. But I can't recall any particular stories about Mo where he would always try to play a prank on me, but I'd always catch him. Although I can tell you a story that we went out. I never forget this one. This is a story that my father-in-law, I'll credit my father-in-law with. We're playing Hofstra in a game, and the game was well in hand, if you will. And there was a runner on second base, and there's a base hit to right field, and there's a throw to the plate. And where was Mo? Mo was nowhere near cutoff position. So, of course, my father-in-law and my guy, a lot of the guys who are listening know how my father-in-law was. He stopped the game. He goes, "Hey, Mo," calls him off the field and sits on the bench next to him. Pulls him out of the game for not being in the cutoff position. This is how my father-in-law was. He was that type of guy. And I would tell you, Mo wasn't happy. But I will tell you, and I also, another Mo story. Mo had an awful, awful fall with us his first year as a freshman, and he wasn't very good around the base. So we would kid Mo, and I'd break it. Come on. So I'd catch Mo in a squash court rack with the old boom box on, with the music, throwing balls off the wall, and working on his stretch and working on his picks. So I used to kid him about that. I said,
awesome.
Thank God you had the boom box because you would have no rhythm. So we'd go back and forth, but I was one heck of a player. Ty was referring to my Craig Biggio story. Now, Craig was another different guy, but tremendous, tremendous athlete. But I went to watch him play. And if anybody's familiar with Kings Park High School, it was like you can stand on a hill and you watch him, and the field was kind of sunken down. So Craig got on first base right away, whether it was a hit or whatever it was. He steals second and third, gets up again, gets on base again, second and third. Well, he gets up the third time. I remember it's a base hit right through the shortstop, base hit. He goes to steal second base, and the coach on the other team hits the back of the backstop, and it sounds like a ball hits the bat. And, of course, it's aluminum bat. Then the catcher throws the ball like it's a high pop to the second baseman. So Craig thinks the ball is a pop-up. So he runs back to first base. They try to tag him out. He beats the throw back to first base anyway. So that was one of my Craig Biggio stories. The other thing about Craig that was, I don't know, good or bad or indifferent, he's one of those guys that he was like a nervous Nelly. If he was on the bench, he was just an absolute nuisance. He'd be walking around, swinging a bat, throwing a ball around, and he was just getting it. You couldn't watch the game because you're afraid he may hit you with a bat or something. So that was Craig. So
you kept him in the game as much as you could.
Well, yeah, if you watched him play, boy, it was an honor to have an opportunity to coach a guy like him. But his uniform was always dirty. Yeah, he was always doing something. He was one of those guys, and Billy, these guys can tell you. You walk away from the game, and you can go. Oh, he could go 0 for 4 and strike out twice, but you went away liking the guy. You went away liking him as a player, as whatever it may be. To me, that was it. Always kept coming. You kept coming back to a guy, and these guys can tell you as a scout, why would you always go back and he'd always do something that was good, whether he had a bad game or not. And as you know, and going back to a guy like Eddie Mathis, after his freshman year, we sent him to play with Eddie Mathis and with the Nationals. And, Eddie and I had conversation. I said, let him play positions. He's an athlete. Let him play. And Steve Conley, who's a scout, he's a scout down in Carolinas, and probably Steve will call me up because now his name has been mentioned. But Steve was the catcher, and it allowed Craig to go out and play. Then Steve got hurt, and I think he went behind the dish. And Steve would tell me the story. Well, they lost because they had to put Biggio behind the dish, and we started losing games. I said, okay, Steve, I got it. And he's a great scout, and he's a great baseball guy, Steve Conley.
So we got 2 more audience questions. Danny Corona says, let's hear about the ace. And Ty says, who is your favorite team manager of all time?
The ace. Danny Corona is talking about his son, Mike, one of my boys. I love him to death. But the ace is proud of him. He's married. He got a couple of kids, and they got more than a couple of kids now. But he's the ace. And we would also, he was one of our pitchers. So anytime there was a foul ball, I'd yell at him. And then me and the ace would start running after the ball together. I'd try to beat him for the baseball. But wonderful guy. And Danny's one of the guys I'm talking about. Danny's going to help us get these guys in line because he has a lot of influence on a lot of good players in the area. And son's a heck of a player too. So that's the ace story. Favorite manager. There's only one guy that's favorite. Of course, it's Double S, the Brooklyn Flash. He's the best. Got a shout out because I know when the Cyclones, we're going to get some good food delivered from Stevie's Deli. But I've had a lot of good managers, all of them, and all of them. My guys, and of course, we know the legendary Max Colton. Mad Max is one of my guys too, who works with the Cyclones, and I'm excited to hopefully get back with Max. He'll take care of me well, I'm sure.
So we got a question after our last show. There was a 12-year-old kid named Cole who was watching, and afterwards he sent a message. He wasn't able to get on. He wanted to know from you how he could get more involved with USA Baseball. You and I talked about how you did some coaching there with Willie Randolph. You won the silver medal with the Premier 12 team, and what it was like. So talk about the mystique again, a little bit of wearing that jersey, and what can kids do to try and get involved with what USA Baseball is doing?
There's an NTIS tryout that you can get involved with, and there's a whole circuit of that. So I would recommend from the getting involved. There's an identification program that you have to find out the place to try out. So go on to USA Baseball for that. Very competitive. I'm not going to lie to you. Very, very competitive. But we have gotten Danny's son has made it. Danny Corner's son made it through. But like anything else, you do things in your coaching career, and it's one of my goals and objectives was to have an opportunity to wear the red, white, and blue, and for USA Baseball. And I'm thankful for Paul Seiler, Eric Campbell, and those two guys just do a wonderful job. And they're my direct contacts. Eric called me up and said, would I be interested in working? And I said, geez, yeah, sign me up. So I spent 2 summers and 1 fall of my life, and my wife obviously allowed me to do it. Because you're away from home, you're on the road quite a bit, or you're at Carey's, the facility, and they're spending anywhere. It's a beautiful facility, and they're just making it bigger and better. You're out there either 4 to 6 weeks on the road and competing against international baseball. So, and we got USA Baseball is the best in the world, But we're getting challenged, though. We're getting challenged.
Yeah. All right, so we got a couple more. We said favorite movie someone wants to know, and your field tarp story.
So we have a lot of field tarps. We've lost a lot of guys off the field tarp. The old field tarp stories. I'll start with that first. St. John's is located in of course, Jamaica, Queens, but St. John's was built on a golf course, and actually, it's the highest point in Queens. So, when you play at St. John's at Kaiser Stadium, who's the greatest coach that I ever been around, as far as he's the baseball in the Northeast. He's the father of baseball. He's the grandfather of baseball. What do you want to call him? He's the father of New York baseball, as far as I'm concerned. But you take the tarp. If you don't keep the tarp down with the windy day, it's almost like an air balloon. And we had guys, I'm talking guys going up 20, 30 feet in the air.
Oh my God!
So, and there's a couple of times we had to almost leave the stadium. So these guys know that particular trip. What was the other question?
Favorite movie.
Obviously, baseball. Bull Durham is one of my favorites. Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams is a good one.
Oh, yeah. So I would say 2 of those. Those are 2 from a baseball perspective would be my favorites.
I think that answers that. All right, let's do some rapid fire here. So I'm going to give you a couple things. You tell me the first thing that comes to mind. Best thing you've eaten in quarantine?
Best thing, chicken parmesan. My wife made it. Love it.
Favorite baseball drill? Favorite one?
Not one drill, but I'm gonna say one tool. It's the batting tee.
You said you were a bagel guy when I asked you about breakfast pastries last time. So what's your ideal bagel topping?
Everything bagel with light cream cheese, toasted lightly.
Why the number 1?
Billy Morton.
And what's your favorite Winter Olympic sport?
Winter Olympic sport, ice hockey.
We got a couple more here. So is Chris Kalika a soft-tossing right-hander with a bulldog mentality? We got that twice.
Yes, he is. I guess Chris Calica is the epitome of what true belief in oneself is. A right-hander, about 5'10", throwing 84, 86, but thought he was throwing 92, 94, and thought he was better than everybody else. And that's what made him. That's what made Chris Calica successful. He was a winner, and he believed he was better than you. And if I can get that mentality in any one of my pitches, we'd be very successful.
Game over, right?
Yes.
So with the Scouts Association, we've been trying to launch some new things. Joey Jarzinka did our first Scouts Minute on you, and it's just a segment on coaches or scouts and the players they've helped get to the big leagues. Craig Hansen saw that. He followed us, which was cool. Some of the other things, we're doing different things. Jim Cuthbert sent in a photo we posted today, said that you always had a smile no matter what when you showed up, even after a long drive on the Van Wyck, which is kind of cool how you kept that attitude. So we were having a meeting yesterday talking about some of this stuff, and Alex Rigoli, Joe Rigoli's daughter who works for the Marlins, was saying that she was one of their minor league coaches. We were talking about old school, new school. And the coach said, I'm not old school, I'm not new school, I'm in school. So can you just talk about that idea that to stick in the game, you got to keep learning, you got to be willing to change and adapt, no matter what it is, the technology. There is no old school and new school.
No, I think that's a great line. In school, you know what the funny thing is? You're always in school. That's the bottom line. As everybody knows, I don't want to call a person being old school because I think it's totally unfair. Let's use the word experienced. That to me is, you can't teach experience. You have to go through the games you watch, the coaching, the games you coached. It's experience. Then there's the other part of it, old school. The new school is information. So instead of going old school, new school, say experience, information. And you have to be able to blend information and experience. And I just look at the information highway like this right now. Picture it right now as you're on the Long Island Expressway and cars are going by you at 100 miles an hour. What's that telling you is that there's a lot of different things that are being presented in our game, okay? And, whether it's Rapsodo technology, TrackMan, Edgertronics, there are a lot of things that are going on. And from the data standpoint, there are a lot of different formulas that determine the success of a baseball player. So you have that information highway, like it's kind of zooming. And then you get on the same Long Island Expressway, and you're in a 4-hour kind of traffic jam. Well, what that tells me that information is all like log jammed. There's so much of it you can't filter through, so you can't get by to get home and drive home. And so I think we're into that information highway with this. That's what we're trying to figure out, a lot of us in this game. And it's being able to, a lot of the smart ones, if you will, know how to filter through the information that's presented to you and to utilize it effectively in our game. So once we can bridge that filtering with the information highway and that coaching experience and put those two together, then we're going to have something. And I think, I know our organization is doing a very nice job with it. I know a lot of organizations to some degree are well ahead of the curve, behind the curve, whatever. But it's the synthesis of the information and experience, which I think is essential if you want a good organization.
So we got about 10 minutes left here. So let's do the baseball cards, and then we'll take a couple of the last questions. I tried to change them up a little bit. So Chili Davis, who's the Mets hitting coach now, you probably got to meet him.
I haven't met Chili yet. I do know of a lot of some of the players, and they speak very highly of Chili. One player in particular that played for the Mets and now just signed a contract with the Blue Jays. One of my former guys, Joe Paddock, speaks very highly of him. when he talked about Chile, there was a good plan, simple plan, and he really talked about approach. And Joe was very, very positive, and I've gotten very, very positive reports, even from some of the Major League Protection guys that work with Chile. Heck of a hitting coach.
Next one we did last time, but he was your teammate, Rick Cerrone. You want to and your best friend?
Oh, he's one of my. I tell you what, like I said, he has a big head, but and some of the guys that have watched him play, he was the best player that I can recall ever. I call it ever, and maybe I'm biased because he's one of my guys. He's in a catching position. He had a plus hit tool. He had power, and he could really catch and throw. And when they throw you right into AAA, out of college, what is it telling you? It's unheard of. And when I played, it was you move your way up the levels. Yeah, you can move up fast. Guy had an 18-year big league career. He had a couple of good years. I don't know what happened along the way. If he stayed around me, I would have made him better. I can tell you that much. I would have coached him up better. But if he put the work in like he did the latter portion of his career, I think he would have even had a better career. But great player and great friend, great person.
John Morris from Long Island, part of the Scouts Association.
Johnny Mo. Interesting about Johnny Mo. I came to and he's a scout. He's a pro scout with the Reds now. Also an experienced coach in a minor league system. Had a very good major league career. A student of the game, a Long Island guy that was a pitcher first, that transformed himself into a hitter through his hard work and became an all-star at the Cape MVP. Was MVP in Double-A. Very good student of the game, very good baseball player, and is just a superhuman being.
And last one we'll do today, Willie Randolph. We talked about him a little, but
now I tell you, Will is a very good friend of mine. I had an opportunity to coach with Willie. Obviously, spent several years in the Yankee organization as a player, and he had a 16, 18-year big league career. You look at his baseball card, he struck out less than he walked. To me, Willie Randolph's a baseball player. And I'm disappointed Willie's not in the game right now with some organization because he's a heck of a baseball guy, great relationship guy, astute student of the game, and just a great guy, great person, great friend.
So I had Gary do this after we did our show. I had him guess, since you said strikeouts, how many strikeouts, if it's on the card, do you think he had this year?
Who's that?
Willie Randolph on the back of the card. We're going to see what happens. Take a guess.
No idea.
What year is that? This was 86.
Okay. How many walks and strikeouts?
He had 94. 94 walks, 49 strikeouts.
How about that, huh? Yeah. I challenge you to find that statistic anywhere in baseball.
Especially today.
Yeah.
So this has been a rough time for everybody as the world has changed. You get to answer this a second time, as did Gary. What are some of the best things that have happened to you that have helped you deal with this? Or what is like your favorite thing you've seen in social media, videos of kids, anything? What's brightened your day?
First, is being able to be around my wife and my son. Gets a little claustrophobic at times. You really have to appreciate being that you're quarantined, if you will, family. And we take that for granted. We go to work and, you just never know what the next day is going to bring. So, I would say cherish and appreciate the time you have with your family. That's what I've gotten out of it. As far as personally, what am I getting out of this? Having more time, because once you're in season and you're going, and Gary can tell you this, and when you're in either full season or short season, it's go 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 go.
Yeah.
So you don't have a chance to be with your family, and you don't have to have the chance to sit down and read a good book or do anything that you may have an interest in outside of baseball. So I've been trying to do some things that I like for one of the things I try to do on a daily basis is spend time, learning the Spanish language, and again, off a computer and doing these programs is quite different than being in conversation with that slang type of Spanish that you may have to get used to. But, trying to put together a vocabulary of baseball and that one thing is something I've been trying to do on a daily basis.
And your wife's chicken parm.
Yep, can't pass that up. Can't pass that up.
So last question here. We got a couple minutes left. What does baseball mean to you, Coach?
To me, baseball is a way of life. To me, it's been my life. I've been fortunate enough to coach for the past 25 years and manage a team and have an opportunity to manage a team hopefully this year. Being around baseball is it brings a smile to my face, so to speak. I said it earlier in the program. It's not work. I enjoy it. How many people, and I think that's my recommendation to any person that is, it's not about, to me, it's not about money. Yeah, you want to have a living. But if you can go to some place and do something that you truly love, then it's a blessing. It's special. So any young person listening, find a passion that you want to do where you can make a living out of it. Then you're going to have a good life.
100%. That's a great way to end it. Coach, thank you so much for doing this again. Everybody that joined in, we do this every Monday and Thursday. We're going to get this one recorded. I believe we actually have it recorded, so we'll put it up afterwards. And good luck. I really hope you get a season, because I hope we all get a season, but I hope you get a season.
Nah, I'm praying we do. We need the game of baseball in a worse way. I kind of reflect back in 9/11, and I don't want to bring up another poor time of our lives here in New York, but those baseball games when the Mets played in the home run by Piazza, and I remember Johnny Franco going out there gutting it up, and those were special times. We need to get back to those times, because I just, especially the people in New York, they love the game, they love the Mets, and we need to be there for them. So the sooner we can get back there to provide that to them, the better off we're going to be.
100%. So follow us on the New York Pro Scouts channel. You get to see this. If you have a kid, 12, 11, 10, send us their baseball videos. We're getting the scouts to scout the kids playing ball, which is kind of cool. And we will see you for the next one of these. Thank you so much, Coach. Have a great day, everybody.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.